Happy Christmas, everybody. Well, this is one thing I like to do every year on Christmas is give you my top 10 favorite movies of the year. Now, this is going to be a list where I chose what were my favorite movies of the year. Before we do that, I got a few honorable mentions, but let's get that out of the way quick. A few honorable mentions I have are How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, Missing Link, the Aladdin remake, Hobbs and Shaw, Little Woman, Uncut Gems, Us, and a whole lot more that could not make it on the list because technically there are a lot of good movies I really wanted to see. And I promise you that maybe in 2020 I can give you a review of Little Woman and Hobbs and Shaw. I can promise. Let's start this party, shall we? Let's start my top 10 favorite movies of the year so far. Well, yeah, let's start this right now because I'm really excited to show you guys what's in my list of the top 10 favorite movies. Coming at number 10, now this is going to be one movie that I really thought it was not going to be on my list, but it turns out with many rewatches, and no matter people would say either this will be the best one of the series, but I still find it to be one of the most enjoyable ones, and that is Toy Story 4. Now, when I reviewed this Toy Story 4 back in June, I said that it was not as grand as like the first three Toy Stories, but with many multiple rewatches, this movie got stuck to me the most. From its beautiful animation, the returning characters of Woody, Buzz, and Bo Peep coming back, this made this movie more enjoyable, more funny, and more heartwarming to watch. It is such a good one for the Toy Story franchise, and a good continuation from that perfect ending of Toy Story 3. And this franchise will still go to infinity and beyond for many generations to come. And I'll still love these characters no matter what. And coming at number 9. Now, this one was going to be a really good one to put on the list. The trailers were really funny, and the director has done so many good movies back in the days. And this one, I was really surprised of how it was. With some good cast and some promising stuff that this one was going to bring. So, what might be in number 9, you may ask? Well, that's going to be the most entertaining movie of all, Jojo Rabbit, directed by Taika Waititi. Now, this movie was so well made, so creative, so funny, so heartwarming. Taika Waititi playing as Hitler and being a director with all these amazing people who was part of this movie, and I really did enjoy for how this movie was. And sadly, it was not in many theaters, but luckily, I got the chance to see this one. And if it comes out on Blu-ray or if it comes to a theater near you, then I highly recommend you check out Jojo Rabbit because I'll promise you this, you will not be disappointed of how good this movie was, and I'll still love it no matter what. And coming at number 8, he may have said some stuff about Marvel and saying how it's not cinema, but that doesn't mean that I hate all of his movies, because he really is one of the best directors, and he came back once again to direct one of my favorite movies that he's ever done, and one of my favorite films that he's ever done in a while, and that is going to be The Irishman. Now, Martin Scorsese is such a good director. He did the best in this movie. The acting is good. Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci, everyone did such a wonderful job. And it's such a grand movie. And if you have a Netflix subscription, then I highly recommend you check this one out. It may be a 3 hour long movie, but trust me when I say this, it's gonna be worth your time. It's such a grand movie that Martin Scorsese has ever done, and I respect him as a director, and I wish him the best for what he has next for movies like The Irishman, because he done so much, like Taxi Driver, The Goodfellas, this one, and Hugo. And I like this movie, and it'll still be one of my favorite Martin Scorsese films. Whew, that accent was pretty hard to pull off. Okay, so let's go back and track. Coming in at number 7 is going to be one superhero movie that I really wanted to put on this list, and I'm glad it managed to be in my list. And this one and the other movie were kind of like The Bug's Life and Ants when it came out. And this is one movie that came out way before Avengers Endgame did. And the trailers were not as good as I thought it was going to be, but when I saw the movie, it was something so grand. And coming at number 7 is going to be the one movie that surprised me the most, and that is Shazam. I loved this movie from beginning to end. It's and really is one of the best DC movies I've seen in a while, and one of my favorite DC movies. The story is great, the family aspect is so great. Zachary Levi does a good performance playing as Shazam, and Billy Batson as the doll version of him. And I sure cannot wait to see what the future will bring for Shazam, and I cannot wait to see what Shazam 2 is going to bring in the future. Let's see what that happens. And this one was the better Captain Marvel than, well, Marvel Studios Captain Marvel, I can say that. You see what I said there. You only think that The Irishman is the only Netflix movie that made it to my list for number six. Well, technically, there's another good movie that out on Netflix and is getting a lot of buzz because of how good the movie was. And coming at number six, it's going to be the one movie that I thought was going to be so good, but it turns out it was one of the feel good movies of the year so far. And that movie is going to be one movie that surprised me the most. And I know there's going to be a lot of memes coming out from this movie, even though many people have not seen it. But that movie is going to be, well, the movie is A Marriage Story. What a fantastically good movie. Well acted. Adam Driver, Scarlett Johansson gives the best performance in this movie. It's so emotional, so great, and it's so interesting, and I'm really invested with these characters, and I could feel what they're going through when watching this movie, and it's so heartwarming to watch as well, because these are one of the best movies I've seen during Netflix. Like this and The Irishman, they really are something that really knocked out of the park with this year, and I'm glad that they did something good. Now we're in the top five. So this one is going to be a controversial pick because there's a lot of good animated movies that came out, like How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, Missing Link, or Toy Story 4. But for me, this one was something that surprised me because I had zero expectations for this movie because, well, I really did enjoy the first one and many people thought it was overrated. But when going to see this one, it managed to surprise me the most. And coming at number five is going to be Disney's Frozen 2. Now, what I liked about the Frozen 2 was the way how they continue the story of both Anna and Elsa. The sister relationship is so good. The animation is so freaking beautiful. The songs are still stuck in my head and truly was the best animated film of 2019. And so far, I'm wanting this movie to be now the highest grossing animated film of all time because clearly that Lion King remake does not deserve to be the highest grossing animated film of all time. I don't know why, but I feel like Frozen 2 can catch up because a few weeks ago and just recently last week, I went to go see it again to support this movie because it's so freaking great and I loved it. And coming in number four. Now this one's gonna be a personal pick for me because this movie just recently just came out, and many people are really mixed with this movie and pretty much divided. Some of them said it was okay, some of them thought it was good, some of them thought it was meh, or even some of them hated it for how it went. But for me, I can say I can totally respect for where they're coming from, but for me, I still loved it and it's my third favorite one of the franchise, and that is Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Now, I was giving hope for Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, even if The Last Jedi may have been the worst Star Wars movies, like some people would say. I still gave hope to see what this movie has done. J.J. Abrams did the best he can do with this one. It's so good. The third act is so amazing, and I will still remember these characters, and this is personally one of my favorite one out of the Star Wars sequels trilogy for how good it was. And I'll still remember it no matter what. And people can be okay with what they think they thought about the movie, but for me, the force is still strong with this movie around. And coming in number three. Now, this one, many people can put it higher or even lower on the list, but go ahead. I mean, it's one good movie, and the actor who did the character deserves the Oscar, and he deserves the awards for being the best performance of the year so far. And clearly, a lot of people loved it, and hell, I even love this movie no matter what. And coming at number three is going to be one of the best DC movies, and that is Joker. What I loved about Joker is the way how this movie is told. It may not be your typical comic book movie, but something really good. It's so dark, it's so serious, and it takes itself really seriously. And I love the way how Todd Phillips managed to create this movie. It's so good. Joaquin Phoenix is such a good actor to be the Joker. And I'm happy it's now the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time. Sorry, Deadpool. But something with Joker is so grand, and I really love the way, what direction it went. And you can see what the Joker is going with, and you can see his perspective. And I really like this movie for how it was, and I hope it wins that Oscar, please. We're in the top two now. So these are the ones that I really did love, and I really had a really tough time debating on who was going to be number two or number one because I honestly had to flip a coin for this one because there are two movies that I really did love, and I can't even decide which one I was going to put on. But now that I made my decision, I finally figured out who was going to be number two and number one on this list. But coming at number two It's going to be the grand finale for this franchise. And I'm really am proud for what this movie has done, and that is Avengers Endgame. What I loved about this movie is the way how the Russo brothers and Marvel Studios delivered something so grand and the best cinema experience I've ever seen in my entire life. I love these characters, the way how they managed to pull off one more good Avengers movie, and technically, yeah, this is my favorite Marvel movie of all time for how good it was. The action is good, the characters are good, the story of what they're going with, it's so magnificent, and I really did enjoy for this one. I'll still love it 3000 no matter what. And Stan Lee, if you were still alive, you would be really proud for this movie. And now we're at number one. So, who was the number one movie of the year? The one that took down Avengers Endgame and The Joker from the number one. Well, this is one movie that came out in November, and I really did grow up with this icon, and he truly was a childhood favorite for me. And when watching his movie, well, he did have a documentary that came out last year. And this year, he had a really good movie, and I really did love the way how this movie was. And number one is Won't You Be My Neighbor, the Mr. Rogers movie that came out in November. What I love about this movie is the way how it's so beautiful told, it's so great, emotional, and something that warms your heart. And if you grew up with Mr. Rogers or love him, you won't regret watching this movie because this is something so good. Tom Hanks does a good job portraying as Fred Rogers, and it really did satisfy my childhood and from beginning to end. And that's why I think A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood is my favorite movie of 2019. And I'll truly love it, and it will still be my neighbor no matter what. So those were my top 10 favorite movies of the year. Comment down, let me know what is your top 10 favorite movies of the year so far. And pretty much with the year 2019, it was a great year for movies. A lot of good conclusions, a lot of good original films, and something so good. And I really did enjoy this year. Let's hope that 2020 can prove that it could be something good for the decade of some good movies. Would it be Pixar, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, anything? I am really excited to see what's going to happen. And I get to review those movies. Well, that depends if the Coppola is going to happen or not, because otherwise, we're screwed right there. But thank you all for watching, and have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.